I'm going to share a few thoughts with you from God's Word. We're going through a series in the church called Walking with Jesus through Mark's Gospel. And we started in Mark chapter 1. We're going right through verse by verse. And today we're in Mark chapter 10 from verse 46. I want to ask you a question. Did anyone see the northern lights in Wolverhampton, in Walsall, in the Black Country over the last few days? Put your hands up. Anyone see it? A few of you did. Anyone not even know it was going on? Didn't have a clue. Didn't know it was coming, didn't know it was happening until I woke up the next day, and it was all over social media, it was all over the news, and I have always wanted to see the Northern Lights. Before we came here, my wife and I, we served up in Aberdeen, and I thought, yes, north of Scotland, I'm bound to see the Northern Lights. Not a glimmer. I come to Wolverhampton, 4 years after we arrived, the Northern Lights come, and I don't know a thing about it, and I miss the whole event. Typical. Sometimes we can feel like that in life, can't we? That life or events just seem to pass us by. We're going to look at a man for whom, in this moment in the story in Mark's Gospel, he was in the right place, at the right time, and he did the right thing. Mark chapter 10, from verse 46. Then they, Jesus and his disciples, came to Jericho. They, with a large crowd, were leaving the city, and a blind man, Bartimaeus, that is, son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many in the crowd rebuked him, told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, get on your feet. He's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and he came to Jesus. And Jesus said, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. So here's a guy in a place that's really a nowhere place. Jericho was in the Old Testament. When the Israelites come out of Egypt and they cross into the Promised Land, the first city they come across is Jericho. And they have a great victory. And the city is destroyed and they take over. And Joshua pronounces a curse on that place. So this guy lives in a place that's not the best. We don't even know his name. We refer to him as Bartimaeus, but actually that's not his name. Bar means son of, Timaeus is his dad. So we all call him Bartimaeus, but that ain't his name. So he lives in a rough place, a forgotten about place, a cursed place, is so overlooked and so unimportant, we're not even told his name. And he's a beggar. And he's blind. He's not got a lot going for him, has he? And as he's going about his normal day-to-day routine, sitting by the side of the street begging, he hears that Jesus is passing by. So he shouts out, "Jesus, help me. Son of David, help me." And the people in the crowd, a bit like the disciples with the children, they try and keep him away. They try and tell him to be quiet. He's not interested in you. What I find fascinating is Mark tells us that as Jesus is walking along the road, he hears Bartimaeus shouting and Jesus stops. You know what that tells me? Whenever you and I are in a situation where we recognize our need of God's help and we cry out to him, guess what he's going to do? He's not going to keep walking away. He's not going to ignore. He's going to stop. He's going to respond. Whatever needs you may have today, we believe in a God who is able to meet your needs, whatever it is. If you will do what Bartimaeus did and just cry out, acknowledge you need his help. He keeps on shouting because the crowd keep telling him to be quiet. Jesus stops and he tells him to come. Cheer up, get on your feet. He's calling you. And then Bartimaeus takes off his coat and he throws it to the side and he jumps to his feet and he makes his way to Jesus. You can easily bypass that and think it's just a little bit of information and detail, but it's not. You know what his cloak is? His cloak is what identifies him. When people see him wearing a beggar's cloak, they know he's a beggar. And in this moment, as he throws off his cloak, I believe it's a declaration of faith, that he knows that in this moment, things are going to change. Things are going to be different. So he takes his beggar's coat and he throws it off. I'm done with that. I ain't going to need that anymore because I'm going to have an encounter with Jesus. And then he goes to Jesus. And then Jesus asks him what looks like a dumb question. It's blatantly obvious the guy's blind. And he's been shouting out, have mercy on me, help me. So it's fairly obvious, I think, what Bartimaeus wants. But Jesus still says to him, what do you want me to do for you? And that's the same question he asks all of us. Because whatever our need, whatever our situation, if we cry out to him, he will want us to tell him what help we require. So Bartimaeus says, I want to see. You guys are here guests today. You won't know this, but I lost these glasses months ago. And I was can't read my Bible. So you know when your arms aren't long enough to hold it away so you can read it? If you don't know, you will know when you get older. Those of you my age, you know what it's like. You're trying to hold it. Oh yeah, I can see it now. But I've lost them. They weren't probably about a month old, and I lost them. And I'd done the man's search, and I couldn't find them. Looked in the car, looked in church, looked in the house, looked everywhere. Couldn't find them. And then on Wednesday morning, I dropped something in the bedroom. And I got down on my hands and knees, and there they were, right up in the corner, under the headboard, sitting on top of the skirting. No wonder I couldn't see them. Well, talk about moving heaven and earth. I moved that bed in a moment to get my glass. And when I put them on, it felt like Bartimaeus. Well, this is what it's like. I forgot what it was like to be able to see clearly. See, I had a need that only these could help me with. Yeah. And when I lost them, I felt helpless and a bit useless. Ever felt like that in any situation in your life? You feel lost, you feel helpless, you don't know what to do? I want to encourage you, do what Bartimaeus did. Cry out to Jesus. He's the only one who can help. He's the only one who can change situations. Bartimaeus shouted, Jesus responded. He asked him, what do you want me to do? Sir, I want to see. And then Jesus says, your faith has healed you. Go on your way. And then I love what Mark says. Immediately he received his sight and he followed Jesus along the road. He's awake. Hello. That's our prayer for Micah. Yeah, for you. Yeah. You don't remember me, do you? Yeah. Like, who is that man? But we'll be praying as a church that when he grows, as he grows, he will do what Bartimaeus did. He will cry out to Jesus, ask for Jesus to help him, to meet his need. And then he'll do what Bartimaeus did. He'll receive by faith whatever he's asked, and then he will spend his life following Jesus. Some of you may think it's all a fairy tale. It's all a myth. It's all nice stories, but it's not real. It's something, maybe it's real, but it happened years ago and it bears no resemblance to the world today. I want to tell you, Jesus can still make a difference in people's lives today. He's still the one who heals. He's still the one who sets people free. He's still the one who hears anyone who cries out to him. All we've got to do is have faith to believe. You ever ask the question, God, are you real? I dare you to take that the next step further. God, if you are real, reveal yourself. I promise you, he will. He will, because he always responds to a cry, even if it's a small amount of faith. God, if you're real, show me. There are people in this room who could get up here one after the other and tell you stories of how God has changed their lives, because he's not a figment of someone's imagination. He's real. And this word is true. So Bartimaeus, in desperation, cried out, and he received his sight. We'll be praying for you as friends and family, for Douglas and Aisha and little Micah. Now, for those of you who don't know Jesus, that at some point in your life, you would do what Bartimaeus did. Cry out and ask for his intervention and ask for his help. And you watch and see what Jesus will do.